Hello and welcome to the Wheel Talk podcast, where we talk all things women's cycling, news of the week, and mostly racing. My name's Gracie Elvin. I'm filling in for your usual host, Abby Mickey. She's not able to make it this week, but hopefully we'll make up for it. Today, I'm joined by new fan favourite, Georgie Howe, fellow Aussie, but you're in Europe at the moment.
I am. Bonjour, hola. I've been through lots of different countries. Always get off the plane and I forget, first person I talk to in a new country, I have to remember which language I got to speak in the greeting. Always a bit turned around, but yeah, really, really happy to be here. It's beautiful weather. I was in London and the weather was 25 degrees and sunny. And then I hear it was raining in Spain. So, world's topsy-turvy, but very happy to see the sunshine here. Now I'm down in Spain.
Yeah, nice. And our very special guest this week, which we're super excited about, someone that I became friends with on the very last climb of the Women's Giro Rosa back in 2013 or 14. I can't even remember now, but Julie Leth, you've been one of the favourites in the peloton, particularly by us riders, for such a long time. Welcome to the Wheel Talk podcast. How are you going?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Pretty good. Not racing anymore, but yeah, good, happy, and excited to be here on the podcast talking women's cycling.
Well, you had a pretty amazing career. What was it, 14 or so years as a professional rider, many interesting teams, very successful teams as well on the road, also a track rider, Olympic medalist, and you finished your career on a high with 2 world championships on the track, the Madison and the points race, I believe. And yeah, what a way to finish off. But are you missing racing, or have you had a really fulfilled life since your last race last year? Tell us what you've been up to.
It was a dream ending to my career, obviously, a lot more than I could have dreamt of. I think I didn't have any world titles before that weekend in Copenhagen, which is also our home track, so a home world championship. So it was really, really amazing. But yeah, then I raced until pretty much New Year's, and then I didn't have any plans of what was next in my life. I sort of wanted to give myself a bit of time to just settle and just figure out what the next thing is, which I haven't fully figured out yet. But I'm sure it's coming. I think I'm very all in. So I was so focused on still racing, and I feel like I needed to live that dream and then stop and pause to just allow myself to have other dreams. But been doing a bit of commentary, which I think is a nice way to stay in touch with women's cycling. Doing a bit of small work here and there, and then also actually just being a mum and just actually giving myself a bit of a breather. I haven't missed racing particularly, but I've also my form is pretty, it's not great. I would say I haven't ridden a lot. So that makes it very easy to not miss it, because I know I would be dropped out the neutral zone. So that's easy. And also I retired going straight into January in Denmark, and the weather was pretty rough. And I looked out the window, and I was pretty happy that I didn't have to go out into it. I was like, I don't need to ride my bike today.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fair weather rider now too. Whenever it's a nice day, pretty happy to be out. Otherwise, there's just no need to be miserable and suffer. But it's still kind of fun to pick a few moments here and there to go and suffer a little bit. But Julie, you were one of the few mums in the peloton for a few years there. You've already had your first child, and congratulations, you've just announced that you're pregnant with your second child. We could talk all day about being a mum in the peloton, because on this podcast we have discussed it quite a lot, how awesome that is, but also how difficult that must be. But I guess instead of asking that, I'm asking, has being a mum helped in that transition? You kind of mentioned that before, you are getting to focus now on just being a mum. Has that been, something that has helped in that move away from that identity of being a professional athlete?
I think so. I mean, I didn't do any full seasons. I basically had my son in January, did a few races on the road, did Olympics in August, exactly 7 months after giving birth. And then 2 months later, I did the World Championship. So it was, I didn't get to do like full season. But for me personally, I think it was very healthy for me as a mum, but also as an athlete, actually, to combine the two. I don't think had you asked me a few years ago, I thought pregnancy and being a mum would be on the other side of my career. I thought they wouldn't mix well, and maybe that when I became a mum, I wanted to sort of put the selfishness of being a pro athlete, put that aside. But I think sticking to the person who I am and that I was for that many years, and sort of it really helped find myself in motherhood. So I think actually it was really, really healthy for me to sort of stick to what I knew in the beginning of my journey as a mum, because I also think it would have been, I mean, it's so overwhelming and life-changing becoming a mum, and I think I would have felt just a little bit lost had I also needed to figure out who I was without bike riding in the beginning. So for me, it was a really, really nice transition. I just enjoyed it so much, and I still expected a lot from myself in racing. I mean, I wanted to come back super quick to do Olympics and World Champs, but it took some pressure away, and I also think it helped me a lot with just I'm pretty sure I would have had time getting over our Olympic result had I not been a mum. But in the end, he doesn't care. He doesn't care how I perform on the bike. He doesn't even care how I do in training. It really doesn't matter to him if I ride my bike fast or slow. He cares about me being present and being a good mum. I think that it just sort of also reminded me what was really important in life, and gave cycling another sort of enjoyment, but also being able to step aside from it when I needed to.
Yeah, I can definitely understand a lot of that sentiment. I'm really glad to hear that you're feeling happy, even though you're still trying to figure things out. And we're really glad that you still want to be involved in cycling, doing a bit of commentary and joining us on the pod. So you got to commentate the Vuelta, which is what we're going to talk about today, La Vuelta Feminina. So why don't we dive into that and just see where it takes us. I'm going to just do a quick rundown of the 7 stages, and then we can really dig into some of the big moments and the good takeaways of the race. So last week's podcast, we'd actually already seen stage 1, which was the Team Time Trial, won by Lidl Trek. So we had a good discussion about that, including the controversy around Movistar's tardiness. So if you missed that, make sure you go back and listen. Stage 2, it was a hectic, wet, and arguably dangerous finale. Marianne Vos took the win. It was an exciting finish, that's for sure, but there was certainly some moments where I was hiding my eyes a little bit, seeing if there was going to be any crashes in those final few corners. So I think we can talk a little bit more about that. Paternoster from Jayco second, and she went into the red jersey thanks to the time bonuses, and Borghese was third. So there was a few moments of that race that were questionable in terms of maybe a bit of course design at the finish. But I think one of the biggest talking points of the day, aside from Vos winning, was Neve Bradbury crashing with about 15k to go, losing a substantial amount of time in the GC fight, which was really disappointing, obviously, for her and the team. But I think we'll dive into what should have happened in that team, I think. Just to make sure that time gap wasn't as big as it was. Stage 3, another sprint finish. It was Femke Gerritze from the SD Works team that took the win this time, with Voss in second. So that was a pretty cool drag race, and Linda Zanetti in third. So someone, a fresh name coming into the mix there for the podium. It was a 5-rider early breakaway of the day, but they were caught around the intermediate sprint. There were crosswinds in that stage. So I think that's a good one that we can dig into a little bit of who tried to split it and maybe what they could have done a little bit better in the finale. There was a crash with about 2K to go, but didn't really take out any of the favourites. So Goetze went into the red jersey from stage 3. Stage 4, it was a pretty amazing comeback win for Anna van der Breggen. Her first win since coming back out of retirement. It was a late attack with 6.8 kilometres to go. FDJ Suez had shown us how strong they were, particularly in support of Vollering. They had strength in numbers on the climbs, but Anna van der Breggen broke away, as I said, with about 6.8k to go, and held it all the way to the line, forcing that FDJ team to chase pretty hard. So I thought that was a pretty cool moment there for Anna van der Breggen, and I think, you know, bit of shots fired, I guess, for what she can come back and do again. Stage 5, it was Vollering that took the win on the mountaintop, showing us that she is still the best climber in the peloton, but it was Reuser who was second, and also giving us a really great picture of where she's at, both mentally and physically, and Anna van der Breggen coming in third. So it was FDJ Suez again riding the front hard, whittling down that peloton. Meyering and Bredewald were attacking on the final climb, which was cool to see, but it was Music and Labuse from the FDJ squad that were just so strong and such great support for Vollering, who was able to attack with about 3 kilometres to go and absolutely just blew everyone to pieces. And it was just coming in ones all the way to the finish. And something that I'd like to talk about is her Vollering salute and pointing to her head in raising awareness for mental health. So we can dig into that one a little bit. Stage 6, it was another Voss win, and it was a really awesome drag race between her and a very close second to Bredewald. And it was an absolute masterclass in watching Voss able to surf her way, staying in the front, staying in control, using her skills to perfection through so many twists and turns and narrow roads. So I think we all really enjoyed that win, and Wollaston in third. So we haven't seen as much of her as we were expecting this year. So that was really cool to see her able to get a podium. There was a big rider, about a 19-20 rider break in that stage, but there was just too many riders, I think, that just didn't want to work enough. So it was caught with quite a ways out, some more attacking in that final. And as we spoke about in the pod last week, there were some opportunities in that lumpy kind of last 15 or so kilometres. So there were some good attacks there, including one from Liana Lippert, but it wasn't meant to be. And we were treated with a nice sprint finish. And something that I'd love to talk about is the most valuable player from the Visma Leifse bike team for Voss in both wins was Imogen Wolf. She did an exceptional job in both sprint finishes, and she's only 19. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about her. And finally, stage 7, Vollering wins the stage and the overall quite convincingly. Reuser climbed her way up to second overall in GC with second on the stage. And Anna van der Breggen bumped down to third in GC. She was third on the stage, but really showing us that she's not afraid to be vulnerable, to put herself on the front and to, ride herself into some pretty good results. So, love to talk more about Anna van der Breggen and what that means for the SD Works squad. And Vollering was very patient too. I think she just knew that she didn't have a super amount of pressure on her on that final day. She just had to ride smart, ride patiently, and just ride a bit defensively in a way. And she attacked with that last kilometre when it got really steep, and showed us that she's the one to beat still at the moment. So let's dig in. There's plenty of things to talk about there.
No, it's awesome debrief, Gracie. I think like the Vuelta, Julie, you raced it in 2023 and last year as well.
No, not last year.
No, yeah. I feel like 23 to last year and then this year again. It just the standard of difficulty of the Vuelta just keeps getting more and more. Like, it used to just be like the easier of the Grand Tours, but it seems like this year's just exemplifies how tough it really is. Like, you don't have anymore the one or two key climbers just going clear with ages to go in the climb. What struck me was like we still had quite a big group a fair way into those key mountain stages. So the quality of the peloton has just risen again, and the course design has risen again. So it's awesome to see from both sides attacking the ferocity of the occasion of the Grand Tour.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, Georgie. Like, the last couple of years watching it as a viewer, I've been a bit like, yawn. There was good moments, but the courses often left a lot to be desired, which impacted the way they were raced. And I really enjoyed this year, and I think the courses were better. Like the overall course design for the week and the individual stages were nice. It looked really good on TV, certainly made me want to go ride my bike in northern Spain. And of course, the quality of the peloton throughout this whole season and that spread of talent has impacted the racing mostly in good ways. And I felt like there was some nice spread of talent here. It's still not the tour to come and win, but it's a big tour. It's, a grand tour for way. So you're still getting a good quality field here, even though we were missing a couple of names. We actually had many of the good names, and it was, finally great to see that pressure of the classics taken away, and that hecticness of one-day racing meant that there was more of the climber and all-rounder types that could really shine. So I thought that there was plenty of moments there that we're seeing names that we didn't see as much in the spring really coming to the fore.
Yeah, but I think the whole, like, I think Abby wrote about it in the newsletter last week, like, can a Grand Tour be a Grand Tour without, like, all disciplines of a rider being shown? So, like, sprints, mountains, hills, but also like individual time trials, team time trials, and then races of like good distances. Like, there are a few stages in the World Tour which were dipped below 100 kilometers, which is not to say that it can't be good racing for that length of time, but I feel like in 2025 we should be seeing stages of having a bigger footprint. So yeah, I mean, the climbs that they were going up, the finishes that they had were great, but the length of the stages and the fact that the omission of an individual time trial and the length of the team's time trial also, I think maybe should be an improvement for next year. I mean, like, you can't do a team's time trial that's less than 10 minutes when they're traveling 50 odd Ks an hour. Like, for a better impact on GC, like, make it longer.
Yeah, agreed. But I do think it's still just 8 days, so I feel like you can't have a team time trial and an individual time trial.
But if you have,
I know exactly what you mean. But it needs to be a lot. It was almost like a prologue team time trial. Also, I like, sometimes I did have the feeling of wanting a bit of something that could settle the GC a bit earlier to allow more opportunities for breakaways in some of the later stages, whereas it was a lot of GC towards the end of the race. But I feel like it's all coming along with just these a bit longer stage races, and women's cycling is progressing so fast. I think, especially, like, you would be able to see that. I've also seen it, Gracie, like, probably a lot of these girls, like, producing the numbers they do now to just top 20, they would win every weekend, like 5 years ago, and now you can just follow. Yeah, it's just it's quite amazing, but we need to start somewhere, and it's so it was a good week of racing, but also some pretty intense finales.
Yeah, and going back to stage one as well, like, that finish in the dry would have still been quite technical and challenging, but in the wet, that final corner had markings all over it. There was like a hard white line, there was a pedestrian crossing, there was other markings on the road. I'm amazed that more riders didn't crash there. So that's something I've noticed in previous editions of the Vuelta as well, is they have these beautiful wide open roads, beautiful tarmac on the climbs. Like mostly in northern Spain, the road quality is really good, and that was one of the things we used to love about riding in Girona and the region. But they often find like really tricky finishes, and it's finding that balance between an interesting finish and one that, you know, finishes in the middle of a town, because that's where they want to have the finish to really drum up good spectators and support that some of those local councils have put in there. But yeah, there was a couple of times this week gone that I've been like, oh, that's definitely on the verge of not passing muster on the UCI rules or what should be deemed safe by some of the unions as well. So yeah, I think that's just one element on the whole that has improved a little bit, could do with some work, as well as some of those the thought around the stages and the way that they set out the week of what kind of stages they're going to have to continue to make this one of the premium events of the season.
I just recall that the finish where I think it was the stage Alison Jackson won. I think it was stage 2 last year, where there was like 4 or 5 roundabouts in the last 2 kilometers, and every roundabout there's a crash. Emma Norsgaard's down, Voss is down, like all the key sprinters are down, and you would have thought that they would have learned from that. I think Anna Henderson broke a collarbone in that stage, in that finale as well. Like, I was saddened to see that the lack of regard to safety in the course design in those finishes this year, when we know what happened last year. And you could just see that when Kat Ferguson came down in that stage, she was visibly just really, really angry, because it was something that could have been avoided.
Yeah. And speaking of crashes, as I mentioned earlier, Neve Bradbury crashed in the first road stage 2. And that was an interesting moment. I think it was just on a small descent, and just a frustrating crash for her. I don't think she was in the wrong. I think it was just an awkward moment that she got caught up in. But in that same, or in a very short space of time, Cassia was off the front, and I'm not sure what was going on with their comms in the radio, but I don't know if Kasia Niewiadoma knew exactly what was going on, or if they'd changed the team plan, or, I don't think Kasia was directly doing the wrong thing. What I would have liked to have seen, though, was for Dygert to actually go back for Neve Bradbury. And that, I think for me, that was what the Canyon Tram team needed to do. I think Kasia, despite telling us that she was not coming in fully prepared for this tour, that she was using it to build for the other bigger races in the year, particularly the Tour de France, you can still expect that she's going to be their second card to play on the GC or for stage wins. So I think that she still mostly deserves that freedom to race on instinct and to race in the front. And so I was disappointed to see that other teammates from Canyon hadn't been sent back straight away for Neve, to get her as close to the finish as possible with the smallest time loss, because I think Dygert, I don't think she was going for that sprint necessarily either. So it turns out that Dygert pulled out of the race the following day, or 2 days after that anyway. So maybe she just wasn't feeling it in general. But I feel like Canyon Tram made a big mistake that day with not supporting Neve better. But also my heart goes out to her. She's had a rough year.
Yeah, but it was such a difficult place, like she crashed just before the downhill. I don't remember how long the downhill was, but what did they hit, like it was a long technical descent, or slightly technical, which you knew was probably going to break up the peloton. And then you hit the bottom. It's 9Ks to the finish with 14 roundabouts and a super technical finish. I also had this feeling like one team could do the descent fast and then actually go to the front, assess what's the situation, and keep the pace high, because there will be splits on a downhill like that, and they will most likely keep happening within 14 roundabouts. It's just hard. And for sure, it was something I noticed as well. Like my first thought is, oh, there goes Neve. Like even if you send the whole team back, it's going to be very difficult to close this gap, because how much faster can you actually go on a downhill like this? It's super hard to close, and the peloton is going to be stretched out. So even like you'll have to pass a lot of riders, and the peloton was in quite a few, like it was split into quite a few bunches, and we hit the downhill, and basically, I mean, Kasia should have been there, but she should have not attacked. If that, like, the team tactic was going for Neve, that's what had been said, and she should have not attacked. I even spoke with Emma Norsgaard afterwards, and Emma was like, this was a point where her attack did actually put up the speed in this little group. The speed was sort of going out, and I agree, you should race an instinct, but when the team overall goal for this race was racing for Neve, okay, you stay in this bunch, but you stay still. You don't go, and you don't, like, it just looks bad, because we would expect that there are Canyon SRAM riders chasing with Neve at the back of the bunch, or like a few bunches back, and she's actually pressing up putting up the pace at the front of the race, and
whatever they'd actually decided to do, it did look bad.
Yeah, and this goes to I mean, we've talked about this before, like you get different leaderships in different teams. Like some GC riders are very happy to lead, but they're also very happy to work for others, like Anna van der Breggen is an example of that. But then you get other riders, someone like Demi Vollering, who, she is the leader of a race. It's not really a question, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, at some point later on. But I wonder with Kasia, I don't know her leadership style very well, but yeah, it wouldn't bode well for her teammates seeing like someone who they work for so often not willing to, work for someone else and back someone else in for the win. So yeah, Julie, you're right. Like she should have just sat in, not worked, assumed that her teammates were chasing. The only thing I can think of is her radio wasn't working and she didn't know what had happened. But even so, you look around and you look for your GC rider, and if they're not there, you sit in. So I think it was a bit of a brain fart, I want to say, I hope, for Kasia. And Canyon just looked like they had egg on their face, because they were so public before the tour, before the Vuelta, that they were riding for Neve. And Kasia was also very public in saying that as well. So it doesn't look great.
Yeah. Yeah. And like internally, like you mentioned, you're losing trust, aren't you? And
you are.
Something as well we can talk about, which is going to be one of Vollering's challenges, is like when do you get to give those other riders chances in quote unquote smaller races to build that trust, build that team morale, and give them also the opportunities that they're also working hard for. So yeah, I'm sure that they had a bit of a chat in the Canyon Tram bus at the end of that stage.
Yeah, poor Neve.
Yeah, I know. I hope that her luck turns around soon. And poor thing crashed again on the last couple of days. One. Yeah.
The Spanish national champ did a full cartwheel. That looked really bad.
Oh, geez.
Anywho, but yeah, Canyon. It was always going to be interesting to see how Canyon came off the classics and into the tour season. Like we were saying, they've got a tour team to really take it to the likes of FDJ and SD Works. But if they don't have that internal cohesion, it's going to make it very difficult.
But it's also a hard position. Like she hasn't had a great season so far, and even had a bit of bad luck. And we have seen her going super well also in GC, but it's another thing when you go in sort of like an underdog, rather than going in as a clear leader of a team. It does put some pressure on, which maybe she's still young, she needs to learn how to handle. But then again, if you don't feel like you do really have the full support of the team, I'm really hoping her luck turns around. And I feel like we need a team like Canyon to have a great tour, an exciting tour as well. They need to be like strong as a team and have more players. Also really hoping for Cicely Uttrup Ludwig to find her form. She had a difficult season last year, but I think if she does find like the form she used to have, it could be an interesting combination of her and Kasia. Probably need like supporting each other to try and make something.
I think that's what we're hoping for, and it's Cicely seems to be having a bit of a slower build into the season. So what are we now? 6 9 weeks out from the tour. So they've got time. Sorry, I was doing math. I'm not very good at it. So I was just looking at the day, just counting the weeks.
A bit more.
Thank you. Yeah, knew I was off. Yeah, so they've got time to build, and yeah, no doubt there'll be something on the cards. But I think what Kasia was saying that after Liège, that like she didn't do altitude before the Ardennes, and you must do altitude. You must be ticking all these boxes these days in order to just keep up and even compete. So yeah, this is the time that they'll do that, no doubt, go to the ground. I wonder if they're doing the Giro, maybe.
Speaking of teamwork, I think there's 2 other teams that we really need to dig into on the teamwork front. Number 1, of course, is FDJ Suez. I think that they nailed it, really. I think on the whole, they've shown that they work together throughout the season so far, but I think La Volta was really a true show of how committed they are to Vollering and her success. I think that Music and Labousse have been such valuable players to her and really just give everything, and have been riding relatively smartly. I think, and Vollering too, like we've critiqued her tactical kind of skill over the last couple of years, and I feel like she is riding happier and therefore a little bit smarter, and she probably feels more supported. And I think the whole team in general, they've got a strong plan and they kind of know how to stick to that plan, which is helping, instead of having more of a fluid plan of multiple winners in SD Works, where it seemed that she struggled a little bit with that. So I think, yeah, like let's talk about how they work together this week, but also going forward, what their challenges may be if they continue as is, and some of those other riders don't get a chance to go for their own results, because Labousse was still 5th overall on GC, despite all of that work that she did for Vollering.
Yeah, I mean, they were just riding super strong. I think also on paper, they were there with almost their A team. Maybe they can add a bit more. Maybe Elise Chappé will also do the Tour de France Femmes. Whereas I do think I want to add that the other big teams, or like at least SD Works, we assume that Lotte Kopecky will also be in the Tour, giving them more strength as a team, hopefully, to be able to challenge a bit better. Because, I mean, Vollering was very clearly the strongest climber, but she also did have the strongest team. We did see a lot more of the other GC riders being isolated earlier, and she still had teammates around to help her. So they were just, I feel like they had to try and come in and see, like, they needed to sort of try how they work together in these longer mountains as well. And it was, they did it very successfully. I will add, I do think Labou did get sort of her own chance in Amstel, where she was 4th. I mean, she did to get. I mean, that was just sort of the race, how it unfolded, that she was up there and then she got to race for herself. But it's something that's really tricky, isn't it? And my entire career, basically, I was a domestique, so I do know the difference of working for, like, how you commit as a domestique as well. It really depends on what sort of leader you have or who you're working for. I feel like I always gave 100%, but just some leaders I could easily give 110, and it was their leading style and the way they acted, and also how much they appreciated my work, that sort of made the difference. But for now, it seems like they really cracked the code. But it's also still a long season.
Yeah, the relationship that the leader has with their domestiques is super key. And we see with Demi, like we saw it after Strada, she was super, like, that was the first time that I saw her being really, really appreciative of her teammates directly after the stage and publicly. So there seems like, at least optically from the surface, that there is a very nice, like, gratitude from Demi to her teammates. So that should, like, bode well for moving forward. But it depends what the team remit is as well. Like, if the team is like Evita and Juliet, you guys are like the super domestiques and we love you for it, we're going to reward you for it, we'll support you and be loyal to you. And And Demi, no doubt, will be appreciative as well, because I think with the domestique, when it comes to like contract year, trades, all those things, like if you don't have your own results, you want to make sure that the team is loyal to you. So that's where I think the tension can lie. When you're just working for someone all the time, you need to ensure that your brand within the team is strong enough that they're going to be loyal to you. But I think FDJ have probably said that to Evita and Juliette, so it's probably why they're giving 110% every single race. But I would, just love to see them go for their own result on a big mountain day, because, for instance, Evita was climbing superbly. Like, she was all over everything. It'd be awesome to see her go on like a long raid in one of the races coming up.
Yeah. And what about SD Works? I think, you've mentioned already, like, of course, we're missing Lotte Kopecky, and she's really the star of that team at the moment and has ambitions towards the Tour, which she's made very public. But this week at the Vuelta, they did race well together. And in some ways, we were thinking that it was one of their poorer performances, but they still won 2 stages. They got 3rd overall. They had time in red. For any other team, that would be a huge success. So it just shows us what our expectations are of that team. And we probably need to temper them now that spread of talent is a little bit more across the peloton. But yeah, how do we think that they rode as a team? I feel like Anna van der Breggen, she's such a quiet person, but you could tell that there was moments that she was the team captain as well as the team leader for the race. I think she was sometimes giving some good directions to some of her teammates.
I mean, first of all, I feel like, already on the team time trial, like, I think on paper they were really not the strongest team, and they didn't win, but I feel like when you look at their team compared to Trek, just on a TTT note, like, Trek would be little Trek is like, on paper they had so many better, like, just a stronger time trial team, and already like putting in a performance like that, I think it shows a lot they team. And they won 2 stages, almost 3, like the one with Bredevold, it was super, super close. So 3 different riders still able to compete for the win. I think it's pretty impressive. And it's just like for the mountaintop finishes, I feel like they will just be adding Kopecky. I feel like it could be an interesting combination, because I do feel like to be able to challenge Demi currently, you need to have numbers, and no one had numbers in the Vuelta, only Demi.
Yeah, but it's the same argument we have with SD Works in the classics, right? Like, the only way to challenge SD Works in the classics, like a race like Flanders, for instance, is to have numbers in the final. It's just in a race like Flanders, the only team that does seem to be having numbers in the final is SD Works. Similarly, in the tours on the Great Mountain stages, FDJ seems to be the team that is having the numbers up there. So, every team kind of calibrates their roster differently based on what they want to target. So I wonder if SD Works has kind of realized they can't have a stranglehold on all of the cycling calendar. So, like, will they be content with kind of dominating the classic season and, seeing what they can do in the tour season? I'm not sure, but I even with Kopecky and Anna van der Breggen on those mountain stages, I don't see them being able to compete with the trio of Music, Lebu and Vollering.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the real A-list start list at the Tour de France, because I think there's just no hiding then in a lot of ways for teams and individuals. But yeah, I was really glad to see SD Works still racing for some, like, having that fluidity of their race plan by the look of it, and seeing the caliber of particularly Bredewold and Goetze. Like, they're exceptional. They're really talented, and we don't talk about them that much. Certainly have been a little bit more, but if you watch some of those finales, what they're doing physically is super impressive. That drag race with Bredewold and Voss, if you watch those last few kilometers, like, Voss is giving a masterclass, but Bredewold also was really making some good decisions, but just physically to hold that pace for that long and then sprint, and she stepped out first, and to sprint for that long on an uphill drag and only just to get beaten by Voss is pretty amazing. And same with Goetze, like, she's in the shadow of Wiebes, but she's nearly as good, I'd say.
Yeah, she rides. I think we've said it before, but she rides like Weebus as well.
Yeah,
Like
they look very similar. I actually saw a reel on from that team, and they were making a joke about how they look very similar.
Yeah. I was just looking at the results sheet, and it is quite awesome to see the likes of Niamh Fisher-Black getting up there as well. So like talk about SD Works, talk about FDJ, Canyon, but I think Little Trek has been a team that's found wanting, and their team time trial performance was obviously dominant, but we expect that from them. And Niamh has kind of struggled to find her feet, I guess, a bit this season. We've mentioned previously that perhaps she doesn't have the same support that she did on SD Works. But what did she? She got 5th on GC, 6th on GC in this race, just behind Lebu. So she is finding her feet a bit more. And I wonder when she comes into the Giro and the Tour with the likes of Spratty backing her in, and Guy Riolini, because we haven't seen much of Guy either, what that team can do in the long toured stages.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed for Niamh Fisher-Black so far this year, particularly in this race, because it was a great opportunity for her. But maybe she's doing everything right, and the level is so high now that you can only be 1% off, and that means that you're not even in the top 5 GC. Like yeah, you have to be well, you have to have had a really good training block in the off season and not have any crashes. And I don't know the full story from her, or if it was just that transition to a new team that could also be, have challenges in itself. So I do hope that she can improve, because I think it was a good decision for her to leave SD Works to find more climbing opportunities at Trek. But I think Trek in general have some great leaders there, but they haven't, for me, shown many times this year they've been able to really come together as a group with lots of new individuals in that team. So I think there's a lot of riders still kind of figuring it out, how to work together. Not that they can't at all, but I just don't think they've got it quite right yet.
Yeah, I will say Fisher-Black, though, was it 5th? Like the first mountain stage, she was going well, but she must have gone really into red, because like she lost so much time within those last 3Ks. And then I think what I want to really give credit for is bouncing back to the last mountain stage, where we did see her do so much better. She paced the climb a lot better and gained time on GC, because she lost a lot of time on that first mountain stage, like compared to where she was entering those last 3Ks. I think she maybe just didn't quite know her limits. It was a bit higher altitude as well. So I feel like I'd seen her, and then when we crossed the finish line, she was suddenly like quite far back compared to where I'd seen her earlier on that stage. And I feel like it's also something to like turn that around and then go and pace yourself super well and deliver a good result on the last stage, which I think she did. So that's something she can, at least as a young rider, still like pat herself on the back and sort of say, oh, okay, I am able to do it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good call out. And another person too in that same lineup is Rihanna Marcus, that I was also expecting a little bit more from. So I think probably similar, just finding her feet in whatever way that is, of maybe just didn't quite get that formula right of training or racing or all of the other things that you have to line up well to be so competitive at this level. So yeah, someone that she was certainly there once the bunch was a lot smaller, but also dropped off quicker than what I would have thought.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch where it's like, okay, yeah, you're riding really well. We've got some new surprises coming up to the peloton, but then I'm sure there are some cyclists who are looking at the calendar and being like, how much time do I have to turn this around before the next race? So yeah, some have been caught chasing their tails a little bit. But I would like to talk about Cedrine Cabal and her ride in this tour, because like she's been just my rider for the past 3 months. Not my rider as in my fantasy team, because we won't go into where I'm sitting in that league. Unfortunately, I think I'm dead last. But I wish she was in my fantasy team, because she's such a good horse to back. Her ferocity of racing and her cool head. I don't know what has changed since coming across from Sarah Tizet, but if it's just the support she's been given at EF, but she's racing with such confidence, and it's been a joy to watch. Her descending with in that, which stage was it? She was descending with Kasia and off one of the mountain stages. That was and she nearly overcooked a corner. So she's not afraid to really give it a crack and send it.
Yeah.
No, her descending is just amazing. But I don't think this is the best I've seen her climb on longer climb, which I think is super exciting to see her up there. So yeah, it's super, super interesting. And she's just willing to race always. Like, she's a fun rider to follow, and she's super enjoyable. But yeah, every time there's a descent, I was just waiting for her to send it at the front. But one thing is being able to go downhill as fast as she is. But I do think this is some of the best climbing on longer climbs I've seen from her, which is really cool.
Yeah, she's definitely leveled up this year. We saw her potential the last 2 seasons, but this year she has jumped up a level for her. And yeah, certainly one of the most entertaining riders of the week in all ways. So she's easily climbing the best she's ever has. She seems to be a great fit for that team with her attitude and the tenacity of the tactics. And yeah, the aggressive descending style is fun, but I'm definitely, now I'm on this side of the fence a bit like, oh, just be careful. I think
you're a mum. You're both mums, so I get it.
She will find her limit, and she nearly did on one of the descents. I think she went into the grass, and luckily that was all that had happened. But yeah, I think she's got really good skills, but when you've got so much confidence, that can also be dangerous. So I hope for her sake that she doesn't find her limit, but I think she might with the way that she's been racing.
I think when Noah gets older, he descends a mountain and you're like, oh, Noah, be careful. Is he just going to pull up a video of mum descending a mountain? And yes, well, you did it, mum, so I can do it too.
Yeah, I don't think we have any legs to stand on now. Someone else that also really impressed me, both on the climbing and the descending, was Monica Trinker-Colonel. She's kind of come out of nowhere in some ways of the way that she's been able to match it with some of the best in the world. And someone that we've been talking about a little bit, but like, wow, she really impressed me at this year's Vuelta. And then on that final stage, the way she was descending on that one of those last main descents was really impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the best signings from that team in like a long time. Like they found a diamond in the rough with Monica, and in the best way possible. Like, she is such a good get for them, coming across from B Pink. Yeah, she's I think a similar story to Cedrine in the sense that like she now has the support of a team with the financial backing. So she's able to get the best of the best, and has really lent into it. And I think Abby wrote about it in her article on like the 7 takeaways from the Vuelta, and like this is Jayco's or Little Jayco's new GC rider, because as we know, Marvi's getting older. She's probably looking at retiring in the next year or two. So like you've got Silke Smulders as well, and yeah, there's Ella Wiley as well who could compete on the GC stages. But I think Monica has both the uphill and the downhill covered, and she can clearly sprint as well, because I've been quite impressed with her placings in those big bunch sprints. Like, she's got a good kick on her. She even got some top 10s. So it's really exciting to see her develop in the team, and I hope I know they will kind of nurture her all the way through and give her the time she needs to find her feet.
Yeah, I hope so. But I think that's definitely a good pivot for them to use Mavi Garcia as more of a mentor and a wingman for Monica now in the hillier racing. So I think that'll be tough for Mavi, though, to step away from the way that she has been racing, because she's also really talented and has done some impressive things the last few years. But I picked her on my draft team last year, and I was a little bit disappointed because I thought she would still be kind of going up the peak a little bit, but I think she kind of dropped off it from last year. And I hate to say it, but yeah, I think she's doing everything right. She just doesn't quite have that edge that you need anymore, that they have now. So age or not, I think she just needs to hand the baton over to her teammate who seems to have the goods.
from all reports, she's a great teammate as well, Monica. So I think she fits in really well with the team vibe. They seem to be having a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's good. Well, continuing on with the theme of riders that impressed us, someone I've mentioned earlier was Imogen Wolf for the Visma Lisa Bike Squad. She did such a good job in those 2 finales that Voss won, to be positioning that well, to hold the power for that long, to hold your nerve for that long, I thought was really impressive. And she's only 19 years old. So I think Voss has a lot to be thankful for the work that she did for Mariana. Like, you could say that Mariana would have won those stages on her own, but the help she got was really good. And before Pauline Ferrand-Prévot unfortunately pulled out about mid-tour, she also did a fantastic job for Voss as well, in that first win. So I think that team, they're finally getting that magic that they need. They're getting some good talent coming through, and Voss isn't looking after herself anymore in many ways. So they've got obviously Pauline to carry the torch in lots of different ways, but I love to see some of the younger riders coming through, gaining that confidence and getting those opportunities to really go all in support of Voss. But yeah, I think that'll give people like Imogen a lot of confidence going forward of what they're capable of as well in the future.
Yeah, but also just I feel like riding for a rider like Voss, and I'm sure like Marianne would have done a lot of guiding. It was still quite a young team they were on the start line with, and young also racing wise. I mean, I was also blown away by the lead out Imogen Wolf did, because they were super impressive. As you said, it was not just like placing Voss in the right position. It was also, it required a lot of power. She needed to sustain high power for a really long amount of time, which was impressive from such a young rider. I just do have this feeling as well that Marianne Voss was able to give a lot of confidence into the team. Like, she also, she expects something from these young riders, and she's also like sort of she helps develop them. I think it seems very like she expects something from them, and it sort of lifts the team. It was my feeling when I saw them, like this feeling of doing something as a team just creates confidence. And that your leader, even though you are young and you are inexperienced, you're still expected to deliver something, but you do have still a team leader that relies on you and believes you can do it. I thought it was quite impressive, and it's really good to see. And I just love when we have all these new up and coming talents who's essentially the future of women's cycling. It's not an easy step to make, coming from junior these days into elite. Like, few riders will be able to do it, and obviously she's a bit in the shade of Kat Ferguson, but it's like very, very impressive. And if you can do this sort of lead out, you can also do quite impressive things if you do have other riders riding for you in the future.
Yep, definitely.
They're both British too, aren't they? Kat and Imogen.
Yeah.
You'd think that Voss would be one of the best people to learn from ever, but you still have to be able to be a good teacher. So I think that Voss has also had to learn how to teach, and I think she's also getting better at that, which you can see in the racing. I think she was a quiet leader for a long time, and now she hopefully is a bit more of a teaching leader. Yeah, I think that's most of the talking points. I think something too that I brought up was Vollering's pointing to her head when she won stage 5 on the mountaintop, and just her interview afterwards I thought was quite good. And yeah, I think I'd like to talk a bit more about it, because just what she said and how she said it was quite interesting to me, and who she is and who she's kind of developing herself as, and her brand as well. So I think that her words were really genuine and coming from a really emotional, genuine place. But she's also crafting herself in a way, and I'm not sure if she's getting help on this. I assume she is, but she's leaning into her vulnerability and leaning into her emotions as an athlete in her post-race interviews and in some of her social media posts and stuff. And I think that's actually really well received, and she is doing a really good job of that. I liked what she said on that particular stage about herself and also others. The one concern I have is that she feels like this is now her responsibility to be that athlete that is a spokesperson for vulnerability across the board. So yeah, what would you say about that particular instance and just the general kind of persona that she's kind of showing us nowadays?
It's a heavy cross to bear to be the sole voice for mental health and vulnerability and things like that. Like, she's already been so vocal about so many things with her hormones, her own health, like physical health. Now she's being a champion for mental health. She's also got to have a bit of self-preservation as well, and to think how much can I really give? Like, she obviously is entirely passionate and has personal experience in this area, so she does want to give it the time and energy, but it does come at a cost. Like, nothing's for free these days. And it would be an energy cost. So she, I hope she does work with her management. So that will be her fiance and the team of FDJ to kind of curate how much energy she does give to this kind of campaign. And because it would be taking a lot out of you, and she can be still passionate about it and post about it on social media, but how much she wants to interact with other sources, so like radio, news outlets, podcasts, etc., fans, and talk about it a lot, because every time you talk about it, it would be quite draining, as we saw in that interview post that stage.
Yeah, but then it's also, I do think she knows that she is a role model, and I guess it does come with pressure, and obviously that's something like I think she's very aware of what she's saying and how she's saying it, but it was clearly like, it's also like some of it does come just straight from the heart, isn't it? You see someone struggle and you know that you are actually in a position to mention it, put focus on it, but also like clearly she was I think she was in a really strong place mentally herself. That's sort of why she was able to, like, she's just hurting from someone close to her not being in that position, and she wanted to put more focus on it. And she's in a position where she can, but it is something where you have to sort of pick your fights.
Yeah.
But obviously hard, because she a lot is, as I said, when you are a role model, you have to. She is it's just a lot of on her shoulders, so she needs to also, I guess, be aware and have people who are good at not putting too much on her plate, besides riding her bike really fast.
Yeah, I think you've both said well.
Yeah, I would love to see, and this goes beyond just like what Demi's talking about with mental health, but I'd love to see some of the women's peloton in particular really use their voice on social media and their platforms to speak about issues that are close to them, because you don't just have to be winning a grand tour to have the license to talk about these things. Like, people do listen. So I think the women's peloton has, like, we all know them. They're all like amazing people and have huge personalities and great life experience and are very passionate about certain aspects of their lives. So yeah, I'd love to see a bit more vulnerability from the peloton large publicly. But again, it is a personal choice and it is exhausting. But because to your point, Julie, they are role models, so they can add to that narrative.
Yeah, it's a choice though. Like you've both said, like you have to decide whether you can handle it or not, and then be aware of what your personal boundaries are and what your energy limits are. So because you're a role model doesn't mean that you have to have the responsibility to be a spokesperson. No. So that's definitely a tough balancing act that many athletes have to kind of figure out along the way, to protect themselves emotionally, and their career too, because you only have a finite amount of time in sport, and it's easy to be pulled in all directions. Even if you're not getting any management, that's probably almost harder to figure it all out for yourself. But even with management, sometimes you're not going to always get the best advice or the people that have your best interests at heart. So yeah, I think a lot of athletes just following on from what you said, Georgie, I think a lot of athletes can take confidence from her as an example that you can do it, just that you have to do it well. So
yeah, and in a way that suits you and your lifestyle as well, and like what you want to do with it.
Yeah, just know yourself and what you're able to offer. Well, I think that's pretty much a wrap on La Vuelta Feminina for 2025. I guess my biggest question marks now moving forward, we've got a couple of smaller Spanish tours coming up. We've got Itzulia and Burgos, so 3 and 4 day respectively stage races. Then we've got the Tour of Britain, the Giro, and then the Tour. So it's a lot of racing coming up. How will some of these big teams manage their rosters going forward, their star riders, who's peaking, who's training, who's doing altitude, who's resting? You know, they've got to get that formula right across the teams. Is Anna van der Breggen still on the way up? I don't think we've seen the best of her. Big question mark around Cassia Niwa-Doma. Is she going to be on an off year because of that huge high that she had last year? I think that she is really struggling to get to that top level again. And yeah, can the FDJ squad continue to be a really solid unit, or are they going to crumble eventually? So I think there's plenty of question marks still to come, which makes it super exciting. A lot of cool racing to come.
Yeah, exciting. When does the Giro start?
Good question.
Beginning of July.
Oh God, so it runs quite close to the
maybe
Tour.
6th of July.
Yeah, 6th of July to the 13th. So
yeah,
got a little
26th.
while. Yeah, so we've got a little while to the 2 big ones. But yeah, as I said, Itzulia is the next one coming up, a 3-day stage race this weekend. So we'll get to talk about it next week, see if there's any mix-up of team tactics. And then, where we go from there. But as always, let's finish the pod on a non-cycling, it can be cycling related, but usually non-cycling related question of what are we obsessed with? Georgie, you know what you want to say this week?
What do I want to say this week? Well, I mean, I think my family would kill me if I didn't mention, weddings. I'm obsessed with weddings. I love being a guest at weddings. It's, I think I'm a very good wedding guest.
I can imagine you being a good wedding guest.
Yeah, I'm a good wedding guest. Somewhat, yeah. So an alter ego comes out. Let's call that alter ego George. George comes out to play at a wedding.
I was going to ask what your alter ego's name is.
I don't know. I just came up with it then.
No, I can see where that's heading, actually.
No, it was, I had my cousin's wedding in London, and it was just a huge amount of fun. We had the live band in a just sweaty basement. It's the best way to finish any wedding. I'm obsessed with being guests at a wedding. So got a few more coming up, including Loretta Hanson's later this year, which I'm sure will be great.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
It's a good obsession, but it requires a lot of friends who has weddings or family.
I know, and it requires me to, be good enough friends to get invited to them. So you're going to have to.
Gotta keep making friends.
Yeah, or I just make like Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn and go into wedding crasher mode.
Yeah, that would be also fun.
Yeah.
Well, we bought a house recently. We got the keys, so a bit obsessed with trying to figure out the renovation, but also not feeling as obsessed as I would like, because it's a bit overwhelming, and also going into a renovation project with a baby doesn't seem like the best idea. But here we go. So a bit, we're trying to figure out how we want sort of the layout to be. We're doing quite a few changes. So I don't do actually Pinterest a lot, but now I'm going crazy to just like search for idea.
You have a vision board. You got like a vision board of like everything you love. What's your vibe? Give me your vibe. Like, are we Scandinavia? I mean, I assume.
Yeah, I would say Scandinavian vibe, like sort of maybe like some wood, a bit of nature inside of the house. It's like a house from the 60s. It would be really nice. But it does require a bit of imagination, which I seem to be lacking. So also an architect taking my hand a bit, just thought it's pretty cool, and it's a bit of a process. And so I'm leaning into I tend to overthink things, and I don't have the time to overthink every little detail in this house. So this is a bit of a challenge for me, which I've taken to be a bit quicker in my decision making.
Nice. Well, Kimmers and I did the classic thing of expecting a baby and doing a renovation that was supposed to finish right as the baby was due. And of course it was not finished. But I can tell you that a newborn baby actually likes the sound of drilling, so he slept quite well. He'd hate it now, but it was actually good at the time. So hopefully that you can get it done before your next baby comes along. But
there's no chance.
No.
No chance.
It always goes
like we were just getting started. We're just getting started as she is arriving, and I'm still running around after my toddler at the same time.
Yep.
So
oh god,
you'll be fine.
Yes.
Oh,
life has its place.
Yeah, I don't envy you. My obsession this week is a TV show called The Pit. So I'm sure lots of the listeners have seen it, but it's so good. I love a good medical drama, but this one is much like ER. It's very realistic. And I like that it's not overly dramatized. And my friend Taylor Wiles is going to kill me, but Grey's Anatomy is a bit too dramatized, in my opinion.
Oh, stop it. No. I'm an all 9 season watcher of Grey. You cannot knock Grey's Anatomy.
No, I still like it.
It's so real. It is real.
It's not real. It's very not real.
I consider myself a doctor, considering I've watched all the seasons.
It's too stressful from the dramatic point of view. They're all a bit too beautiful. They're all a little bit too conniving, and it's not real. Whereas the more realistic medical dramas use the medical stuff as the drama, and then they're all nice to each other. And I like that because it takes the edge off. I like when people are nice to each other.
Well, I've watched all seasons of Grey's Anatomy, and there's a new one rolling at the moment, and I'm also watching every episode, and I have no regrets, and I'm not embarrassed whatsoever.
Yeah.
Do you ever go back and watch the first episode again, when they're super young? And George still alive?
It's a good comfort watch to go back.
Going into a training camp just a few years ago, Amalie Diederichs and I, we started watching the show from the beginning again, and we were still, so that's our full training camp, all of our training camps, and it was probably going into Tokyo, to be honest. So then I started, but now I'm just watching as new episodes emerge. But the new one coming on Thursday, at least in Denmark.
Oh, awesome! I have distinct memories of coming home from school on a Friday afternoon and getting the illegal download of the Grey's Anatomy episode ready on Friday morning, so it downloads while I'm at school, and then when I'm home Friday afternoon, I can watch it. Kids these days don't know how good they've got it with Netflix and Amazon Prime and just the immediacy of movies and not giving your family computer viruses.
But I just watched what was on demand. If I wasn't home at 8 Wednesday, 8 in the evening, there was no Desperate Housewives for me. It was just too bad. Too bad.
No, that was actually good. I would go back and watch that again.
Oh, I wasn't allowed to.
It would not have aged well. It would be so funny to watch.
Hilarious.
So many good things. All right. Well, that's a wrap for the week. Thank you so much, Georgie and Julie, for joining us this week. And I hope this is not the last time that we get you, Julie, on the pod. Very cool to have you here. So, we've got, as I said, it's Zulia coming up. If you'd like some more takeaways from the Vuelta, make sure you go read Abby's great article on Escape and any other bit of women's content. The more clicks, the better. So, see you next week.